Hey everyone, welcome back. Hey Phoenix Beauties. I think it's Thursday. It's been a long day. I am tired, but I promised I will do a video. So I really appreciate you guys watching the video, and I love the responses and the questions that were coming in. Keep it coming. And I thought about actually doing maybe a live tutorial on how to make candles. If you want to do step-by-step on creating a candle, you can get your supplies, and then we'll set a time and we'll make candles together step by step. Let me know, comment in the video if this is what you want to do. I'm open to suggestions as far as that is concerned. So I read everyone's comments and I try to respond to everyone's. If I missed anyone, I apologize. But I love the comments and I love the questions. As I mentioned before, that I'm basically treating this like a beginner's video. And I'm doing instructions on how to start creating the candles, the different testings and the different items that you have to do to create these videos. Today, I decided I will touch on choosing the proper wick, because we have some questions about wick use, about vessels, those types of things. I will, of course, leave the links in the video of the items that I use in the video, and any wick suggestions, guides, or any ideas of choosing the right wick. So today we're going to test some candles. I don't know the name of the wax that I'm using today because it was sent to me by a supply company that I purchased some of my wax from, and they asked for me to test out the wax and let them know what I think and what wicks will go with this wax. So they haven't given me a name. They haven't launched the product as of yet. But I figured, hey, why not kill two birds with one stone, test out the wax, and show you guys how to do that. So let's start talking about the wicks. Wicks are very important. They determine how well your candle lights. It determines how it burns. It determines basically how much fragrance does it put out. Now, I was trying to get my face in this video, but because of my setup, you won't be able to see clearly too much of the candle. I figured seeing the candle is more important than seeing my face. I might do it in another video, okay, guys? So for those of you who are like, why isn't she showing her face? That is why I want to focus on the candle for this, especially for this video. So to get started, this candle that I have here, I think I'm using the Calorie Leaf fragrance from Candle Science. I can't even remember. But based on how the wax works and how it melted, I'm thinking, and I believe that, I know for a fact actually that this is a soy-based wax, but I'm thinking it may have some coconut wax in it. I'm not 100% sure because, of course, no other information was given. So this is like a blind study. So the wax that I'm going to test today, because someone commented about having CD18 wicks. So I'm going to test the CD18 wicks from Candle Science. And my other wick that I'm going to test on this candle is CD12 6-inch. They're pre-tabbed wicks, so some of the work is gone already that you don't have to worry about. And that is the other one I'm going to test for you. So when you're testing candles, one of the other important thing is your environment. So think as far as what environment are you trying to test this candle in. For your first time testing, you want to think of things like controlling the wind or the air or the temperature around you. You want to consider, do I want to test it when a fan is blowing? Do I want to test my wick and how this candle burns in an open space, or do I want to test it in an enclosed area? For this video, we're focusing on how does the candle burn? How is the melt pool? So the melt pool is when you burn your candle, that whole area, how far does this wick burn? Does it burn the wax all the way to the edge, or is it in the middle, or does it tunnel? And tunneling is basically when you're burning a candle, it gets only this middle area around the wick, and then it burns down instead of away from the wick to the edge of the glass. So that's another thing you have to look for. The other thing is, are you looking for something that gives off a higher fragrance, or are you looking for something that does fragrance as well as burn? And that's what you need to look for, is something that gives off fragrance as well as burn. Because I know those of you who love to buy candles, the one frustrating thing is to buy a candle and it doesn't burn all the way to the edge. So you're basically wasting a lot of that wax. Don't be disappointed if you're testing and it's not burning all the way. You have to keep in mind that your environment affects how your wax burn, as well as what type of wax are you using. How much fragrance load are you putting in? Are you putting in low, like 6%, or are you putting in high, 10 and 12% fragrance oil? So that's what you got to take into mind. Are you using dye in your candle to color the candle? All of those things affect how your candle burn. So when you're testing, the best way to test is the way you want to sell the candle. So if you want to add color to your candle, your testing should include color. Always include your fragrance, because a wax that does not have fragrance in it, it definitely tests different than a wax that has fragrance in it. So you're never going to sell wax without fragrance. So you want to go ahead and test with the fragrance. So I did about, I think about 9 or 10% fragrance load in my candle. So this is my normal. When I make candles, I do anywhere from 9 to about 10, a little over 10. It just depends on how strong I want the candle to be. The lighter the fragrance, sometimes you'll have to increase your fragrance oil, or you mix 2 fragrances together to balance that lightness out and have something that gives that scent. It just depends on what you're looking for. I'm babbling a little bit, but all right. So the CD wicks are one of my favorite wicks. The reason I love the CD wicks is because it has a tighter burn, meaning it'll start burning, and then it goes out, it expands. If you use the correct wick, according to what candle or what wax you're burning and fragrance oil you're putting in there, you won't see things such as tunneling. You won't see a lot of soot, and that's where when you're burning a candle, it's like smoke coming off from the candle. And the other thing you should not be seeing a lot of, if you have the correct size wick, is mushrooming. Mushrooming is, think about how a mushroom is. A mushroom spreads out, kind of like a flower, and it has those little spurts and that little, you know, like it's like a fan at the end of the wick. So we call that mushrooming. And when that happens, that usually means you don't have the correct wick for your fragrance load as well as your wax. Now, some candles you will have mushrooming in because you don't have a wick that does that in between. Let's say you want to do a CD12 wick, but you really need a 13 in between the 14 wick. We don't have a 13, so you're going to use maybe the 14 or maybe the 12. So it just depends. So anyways, long story short, my CD wicks, they are basically great for soy-based wax. They're also great for high fragrance load, if you're going to burn a candle with high fragrance load. And they're also good for the wax that are more viscous. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. So that's why I went with CD wick. Now I also use the Echo wick as well. They're great with soy-based wax, and they burn very well. But as I mentioned before, it all depends on the wax that you're using. So to get started, we have our CD18 right here, 6-inch wick, and then we have our CD12. When you're getting ready to test burn your candle, of course you want to cut the wick. And I tell my customers all the time, there is a correct way to burn a candle. If you cut the wick and the wick is too high, so let's say the wick is all the way up here, you're going to get a higher burn, and it's not going to give you the burn that you're looking for. The flame is going to be too high, first of all, and that's one thing you don't want, is a candle that burns too high. And then you don't want it to burn too hot. The goal is, when your candle burns, you want it to expand its burn pool, which is the melt area, and you want it to give off good fragrance, and you want it to last longer. If the wick is too high or too long, then you'll get the wick burning down, but nothing is burning as far as the candle. And by the time it gets down there, you might have some soot, and you might have too high of a flame. So you don't want to burn anyone's house down, basically. So you want to cut it at least at a 1/4 inch. Okay? Even though the flame looks like it's not high, there's an area above, like a burn area, or heat area, where you'll still feel the heat from the flames, and it actually can catch things on fire if it's within that area or that vicinity. So we're going to cut. This is my wick cutter that I bought off of Amazon, and they're pretty cheap. I think they're about $6. And I go ahead and I'll take this and I'll cut it, you know, pretty much down to here. So I don't know if you guys can see with my lighting and everything. It's only cut. Hopefully you saw it within all of that. So I'm going to cut both of those down to there. The other thing you want to think about is your wick centered? You want your wick to be centered, okay? If your wick is centered, you have a higher chance of getting an even burn. If it's off center, you may have one side that will burn down faster than the other. But if it's centered, you'll get each side's burn evenly. The environment I'm trying to burn this in is where we don't have the fan on. The AC is not running. Well, mine just kicked on, so that's not working out great. I think I'm going to go take a moment and cut it off. And on top of that, I want to make sure that we don't have any draft happening. This is going to be a controlled environment. Now, as you continue testing this candle, if you want to burn it again, you want to test it in the environment that you think your customer may burn it in. In most cases, your customer is going to have the fan going. They're going to have the windows maybe opening. There's draft. There's things moving around. You know, those types of things. You want to think about the temperature affects your burn as well. So you can test it in an environment that your general customer will be in. They'll have the air conditioner going. So, of course, there's going to be drafts. There's going to be other things in play. So we're going to go ahead and burn. You guys, I love this. Love this right here. So I bought this off of Amazon. You can tell by now I am an Amazon junkie. So everything, that little items, I buy off of Amazon. So you turn it on. And this is a rechargeable lighter. So let's hope. Oh. So I switched it on right here, and now I'm going to burn it. So it bends. I get excited about stuff like this. So it bends, and you push the power button, and then you light it. So it's like a laser in between that will light the candle. And then I'm going to light the other one. I'm missing the candle, you guys. So here, I'm lighting the candle. So look at the flames. First of all, my AC is on, so you see it flickering. That is something that in a normal situation, in a testing environment, if there isn't like a fan going or the AC going, you should not see your flame flickering. So I'm going to, let me go ahead and turn my AC off. Give me a moment. Sorry about that, you guys. I'll be right back. So it should kick off in a second. So hopefully it kicks off soon. But as it goes off, you're going to notice that it's not going to have the wind, you know, blowing, basically. So when I test for burn between 2 hours and 4 hours. So the average customer may burn the candle for 2 hours. At least, at a minimum. And we recommend when you first burn a candle, at least burn it for 4 hours so you can get that even burn. And that sets the guide to how well your candle will burn after that. If you don't get that full layer to burn, then the memory of that candle is going to burn exactly how you left it the first time. So I try to explain that to my customers in their first burn. So what I'm looking for is how fast does that candle create a melt pool? And that is the pool of the wax melting. Is it creating any soot? Do you see any smoke coming up? The other thing I'm looking for is my glass overheating? So that is a good thing to look for right there, because you want to reduce any chances of your jar exploding. You want to reduce any chances of heat damaging a person's furniture or burning a person's hand. So you definitely don't want your glass to overheat. So if you're looking at this moment, and let me see if I can bring this a little closer to you. I'm trying to keep it on a flat surface. But if you're looking at the candles, my CD18, it has like a flickering sometimes. And I could already see the flames up here. Okay. So I don't know if the camera is showing you well enough, but you'll see the heat. It's about up to here, a little bit higher. And my CD12 wick it's way steadier and stable than my CD18. Now, I'm not saying CD18 will not work. It will work if you have a maybe wider vessel, or if we're using a higher fragrance load. And also if we're using a different type of wax. So it all depends on your wax. So CD18 I've used before in this is a 12.5 ounce jar, Libby candle jar. I've used this in that jar size before, the CD18, without any problems. This CD12, I can tell you already, it's burning really slow. But the question is, am I getting the fragrance I'm looking for? So to test your fragrance, the best way, as soon as you figure out your wick size, now you take that candle and put it in a room. Close that door if you need to, or walk away and see, is it giving you the fragrance, giving off the fragrance that you want it to give off? And that's how I test to see, is it strong enough? I may put it in my living room, and then I'll take another candle with a different wick size, and I'll put it in the bathroom. But you want to have the same size room or close to the same size room, and you don't have to test them all at the same time. You can test one today, then tomorrow test another size. So those are things you're looking for. Is it burning properly? Is it burning all the way to the glass? And is it giving off the fragrance that you're looking for? And is it a steady flame where it does not overheat the glass? It's not too high of a flame. And it's not burning too fast. Okay? Because you want whoever is purchasing your candle, especially if you're charging a good amount, they want a candle that's going to last. And is it going to hold the fragrance? Because you'll have complaints where I burned the candle one time, but after that, it doesn't smell right, or I can't smell the fragrance. Now, the customer can become nose blind. That's what I call it, where the fragrance is in their house that they don't smell it while they're burning it, but as soon as they walk out and walk back in, they'll smell it. So you can't please everyone. To be honest, you cannot please everyone. You could bend over backwards to try to make this perfect, and you can, you know, test and test and test and test and test, and you're still going to have some candles that do not act right, because you're not testing every single candle. You're just testing to make sure the correct wick size for the jar that you're using, the wax that you're using, the fragrance that you're adding, and the colors that you're adding. Okay? So the more items you add to the jar or the candle, the more you have to take into account of burning. Now, I've seen people actually add like dried flowers and stuff like that. Let me give you a little tip. Your insurance is not happy when you add things like dried flowers or anything like that, because that adds to creating flames. So you can actually set the flower can actually catch on fire, even though it's been sitting in that wax. So that is a risk, a fire risk. So some people do it. I tried it at one point, and then I decided not to go that way because, you know, I don't want to use my insurance for that. So basically, I just use a plain candle without adding flowers. I've seen people add crystals. I don't see that really causing a fire hazard. I actually had a dried orange slice in one of my candles, and that actually caught on fire, even though it was in the wax. So you just have to be conscious of those things when you're burning it. If you're going to add anything, I say add it further away from the flame itself, further in the edge of the glass if you're going to do something, and don't overload it. But that's not me telling you to do that, okay? All right, so we've been burning for about, I would say maybe 8 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes. And if you can see, I'm going to bring this a little closer. You can see it melting a little bit. So this one is already melting faster. The CD18 is melting faster. The CD12, it seems like it's melting steadily. So I can tell you with the CD12 from using it in the past on this size jar, it's a very slow burn, and it doesn't work for every fragrance and every jar candle that I use with that size. I prefer the CD14 because that gives me a steady flame, and it gives me a steady burn, and the fragrance is good. Now, I also use the Echo 14 on this size jar with the fragrance load that I normally use and the wax that I normally use. The Echo 14 and occasionally the Echo 16 tends to behave appropriately for me. So not saying it's going to be perfect every time, but on average that works very well for me. So I'm going to continue this after 2 hours, and we'll come back in part 2 and we'll see how the candle is burning. But before we go, let's take one more look at the CD18. If you look closely, and I'm hoping that the camera is showing this, this is hot. you can actually see the heat. And look at how it is jumping. So it's steady on occasion, but for this wax, whatever this wax is, and for the amount of fragrance load, which was about 9, a little bit over, and the fragrance, I think, is Calla Lily, it's not my favorite wick size. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to mention to you guys as well is when you're testing, don't waste your wax. The mistake I made when I first started was I did a new candle for every single thing I'm testing. If you're testing the same candle, the same fragrance, and you're just changing out the wicks, all you need to do is pull that wick out. I have pliers, little pliers that I use, and I just pull that wick out and I turn around and I stick another candle in there and I melt the top evenly with a glue gun after I stick the new wick in there, and then I burn it again. So yes, we're burning down some of the fragrance oil when we're testing it, but it gives you an idea of whether you need to down wick, which means go down a size, or up wick, go up a size on your wick. So those are the things that you could keep in mind. So I am trying to work smarter, not harder. So I basically just switch out my wicks, pull it out, switch it out, use a heat gun to smooth out the top so it's like a fresh burn all over, brand new, and then I burn it again. And that helps me, you know, with deciding what wick size I'm going to use. So after a while, you'll get an idea. So within, I'll say it's been about maybe 10 minutes now, or a little bit more. Within that time frame, if you will look closely, you will see how this is burning. And I'll show you some more. And you'll see, let me see if I can bring it a little closer for you to see, hopefully. So you'll see the CD18, how it's burning. There's a little glare, but you get an idea of how it's burning. That's a CD18. And it should not burn that fast in as short a time. This is a CD12, and look at how the burn is in that time frame. So hopefully you can see it. So that is a good melt pool, burn pool. That is a good size. I would like in between both of these for it to burn. Okay, so by the time it gets 2 hours, you may have too much right here, too much melt. So you don't want, I'll say you only want like a 1/2 inch of melting wax in the jar at a time, because if your wick is too small, they'll get, ooh, this thing is so loud. If your wick is too small, then your customer will get a lot of melted wax, and sometimes that wick will not last to burn down the rest of the candle. So the other thing, if it's too small, and if it's too big, it's going to burn too fast. And it's burning too fast, so it's burning off the fragrance oil too fast. So in the meantime, we're getting rid of the fragrance oil, but we still got a lot of wax. So that defeats the purpose for a fragrant candle. Now, if it's only burning at about 1/2 inch to maybe 1 inch at a time, then you're getting the even wax and the even fragrance being burnt down. And it's burning and getting rid of the wax and that fragrance oil easily and evenly. That way you won't have wax but no fragrance. Now, if it's too small, then you get no fragrance. You can get a slow burn, but you won't get a complete burn as far as the top area to be completely burnt out. So I hope I'm not confusing anyone. Okay, so stay tuned for part 2 of the video. I'm going to continue to let this burn. And any questions that you have as far as the wick or, you know, testing your candle, go ahead and leave it below. If you guys want to do an actual live session where we're all making candles together, I'll be open to doing that too as well. We just have to find a time that most users can participate in. And if not, I'll continue doing a recorded video and uploading it. So I'll see you in about 2 hours time frame. I'm going to check this out and I'll do another video and I'll upload that at another time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check back and see the final result after 2 hours of burning. Okay.